Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Sundari Broadcast System. We do apologize for it being on a Sunday. We had some scheduling conflicts yesterday that just didn't make it possible for us to air yesterday, but we're still here, and we are here to talk Andor. We had 3 episodes drop at once, so it was a lot to take in. So we have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time.
Yeah. Well, hello everybody. I'm back as well. A 3 episode premiere, and definitely be a lot to talk about, especially because I know I woke up the morning it came out, which is Wednesday, and sat on my couch from 7 a.m. to probably 10 a.m. to watch all three. So about like 3 hour watch if you were watching that. But overall, I mean, and we're just gonna bunch them all together, 1, 2, and 3. I enjoyed every single one of them.
Yeah.
As much as it was as we all can agree, I know many Star Wars fans are just saying they love it, but can also agree on this. It was slow. It was like 1, 2, and 3 were just the intros to like get us to like be like how we ended up here, where we're at, what's going on, and this is where we are going to progress now. It was definitely the first arc, the first 3 chapter like arc of a book, It was just getting you into it and then basically leaving you off with this is where we're at, and it's about to just keep going higher. But overall, in my opinion, I think Charlie agreed on this. Really good.
Oh yeah, I adored the first 3 episodes. It was great, and like I went back and I watched it earlier today, and trying to watch them independently, like each episode independently, it like this is no hate to the show. Like it makes sense why they did the 3 episode release. Because remember a few episodes back, I was talking about like it could give us like having so many episodes come out at once could give us like overstimulation of Star Wars content. But it was honestly needed because trying to watch each episode by itself is just like kind of slow, and it was like I lost interest a few times, but I was like, no, I need to watch this to make sure I get everything so I can talk about it for tonight's episode.
Yeah, and I know it's been people have been critiquing or a lot of saying they don't like the show because of the first 3 episodes. I mean, it's not for everybody, in my opinion. I know some critiques are well in their right with like the slow burner stuff, like people have been saying. I know I've been like seeing it all. Did we really need 3 episodes to cover this small little arc, or did we really need to go independently? And personally, I feel like it was necessary to kind of just get us through it, to show us it, and to give us those flashback scenes. To give us kind of his like in depth, like gotta just give him a little more building up. We've seen him in Rogue One, but now we're gonna see him more. We're gonna see how he really is as a character, and I think it was needed. So some critiques like that, if like they're being slow, do we need this? Do we need to be 3 episodes? Are well in their right. They're definitely well deserved. Like I respect that, but the critiques are just saying like, I don't like it. It's stupid. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. You can have those opinions, you can have those rights, but really, like, are you just like, you know? But hey, if you have that type of critique about the show, like it's not Star Wars, if you don't like it because of so and so reasons, respect. It's your opinion, but yeah, let other people try to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Like Star Wars isn't always space wizard with laser sword goes swish swish. There's a lot more depth and to each and every Star Wars story.
Yes,
and it's what I love about Star Wars is like you can just sit back and appreciate the movies and the shows for what they are and just enjoy that. But if you take that dive into the deeper, greater universe, there's so much there, and I love it.
Yeah, and then for like, I've heard the critiques of like I said, it's not Star Wars. It's not this. It doesn't feel like Star Wars and have that Star Wars dialogue. Why is it so dark? I know a lot of people want the dark and gritty. Like, why is it dark? Star Wars has never been dark. Well, let's be honest. Star Wars has been pretty dark since say day one. A New Hope blowing up Alderaan. We just mass genocided a planet. We all make jokes about it. We all make memes about it. But that was a great dark intro. Like, Empire Strikes Back, the villains win. Like it's a dark episode. That's one of the considered probably a dark movie for Star Wars. Return of the Jedi, it's fun and gritty, but there's also a lot of underneath stuff. If you know what I'm talking about, Charlie, when it comes to Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
The
A lot of
Ewoks.
underneath stuff that like we don't talk about with the Ewoks.
If you know, you know.
Yeah,
we might talk. We might talk about it later.
Like Episode 3 alone is very dark. Like we don't have to go into it, but murdering of younglings. Star Wars has always been dark in its own ways. Star Wars has been dark, and yes, you can critique of like it's not Star Wars dialogue. You know, is it really though? Like Star Wars dialogue can be serious. Star Wars dialogue has never been joke there, joke there. Here's a serious topic with it. Like, you know, it has had some serious dialogues. Like Rogue One was like we consider probably one of the more serious Star Wars films. And that is what the Galactic Civil War is. It is a more serious set in tone Star Wars place and time period. And this is where we're at right now. We're in the very dark stages of the Empire. The Empire's all the way up here. The Rebel Alliance is all the way down here. They're inching ever so closely to compete with them, but it's just like it's very dark what the Empire does in their time as controlling everything. So we're gonna see some dark things, and if you don't want to see it, then don't watch it. But don't ruin it for everybody else.
Yes. Respect everybody and give them the chance to just enjoy Star Wars. Like some people like the dark and gritty. Like I've said this in the past. Get Steven Spielberg, who directed The Pacific and Band of Brothers. Bring him in to make a Galactic Civil War show. Make it like 20 episodes or something like that. That way we could really deep dive into some of these aspects of just how dark this war actually was. But that's enough of like the preface and all that. Let's get down to actual Andor talk.
Dark and gritty. Episode 1, the straight up intro is dark and gritty. Especially when it comes to, we'll get into them earlier, but the Primo Guard, like the Primo security unit. Andor just straight up murders 2 of them. One is by accident, one he knows he has to kill. In a sense. He didn't have to kill him, but it may have needed to happen no matter what. But when that first thing, when it basically, I like how they did that because it's basically, you're in for a ride. This is what you've wanted. We're giving it to you now. And that was a great intro because it basically was like slap across the face. It was like, if you want to talk about like Game of Thrones, whoever didn't read the books and straight up watch the show, slap in the face episode 1 to like the first season, you know, like you're in it now. It's like that. It's slap in the face. You're in it now. We're getting dark. We're getting gritty. Make sure your kids don't watch this. You know, like your kids can watch it, but still.
And like one thing that I want to talk about that specific scene where he had to like the opening scene where he had to end up killing those 2 guys. Like he didn't set out with the intention to kill anybody. And this goes back to last week's episode, the kind of heavy episode where we talked about like are the rebels terrorists or are they freedom fighters? And it's all a matter of perspective. Cassian had no intentions of going out to kill these guys. He had heard that his sister worked at this place. He wanted to find his sister. He went there, and they started harassing him. He tried to say, like, hey, if there's a fine or something, I got some money, I'll pay you, and then I'll leave. You won't ever see me again. But then they pushed the issue. They kept like being aggressors. And in my opinion, he acted out of self-defense on the first guy. It resulted in the dude's death, which was a complete utter accident. And if you look at Cassian when he ends up killing the other guy, he's not that hardened guy that we see in Rogue One where he could kill somebody and it wouldn't even faze him. You actually see the remorse in his eyes. He's like, I don't want to do this. But then he ends up doing it because he knows if he doesn't, it's going to end badly for him.
I'm really upset I wasn't there for that talk now because people know me with this. I'm for the Empire. So rebel. I mean, as much as I love the rebels, they're terrorists. But
it's all a matter of perspective.
It's all a matter of perspective. But and going back to that perspective, when we go in episode 1, when we are transported to we are shown the Primo security unit guard like facility and where they operate. You see that head officer like talk to one of the main, I forget his name right now, but he's talking to this dude, and he's like, dude, it was dark outside. All they reported is dark brown hair, dark beard, long, like pretty tall, like average height. That could be anyone in the galaxy, and he could be light years away from now, wherever we are. Be out of our jurisdiction, Plus, these guys, like he even admits, plus these guys were doing the place they shouldn't have been doing, which is a really nice place. So they were looking for trouble, obviously, and they got it.
The director was like, these guys were on duty, drinking, and in a location they weren't supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So he was trying to save face and sweep it under the rug. Just let it go away. But then the assistant director just kept pushing the issue, and when the director left the system for like a meeting or whatever, a conference, he abused his power.
Yeah, no, he did. He really did abuse his power, and it does go back to. I mean, he didn't really abuse his power. He just didn't follow a direct order, which you can consider abuse of power. Did our main boy have every right to go after Andor? Yeah, he killed 2 of their own, but the director was right. This is going to have consequences if we go after it, and he obviously was going to an Imperial meeting with the Empire that were doing a checkup on them, because how I look at it is this: as much as the Primo Guard security unit operates on its own, the Empire is the real puppet master from above.
And like we were talking before the show, I compare it to like the old mill towns of America, like in the early 1900s, late 1800s. There would be these companies that own entire towns, and while they do answer to the government, they basically are the government of that area. Like they can create all these different businesses for these people to go to, but they control every aspect of their lives. Like they control when they go to work, when they get off work, where they can and can't shop because they pay them in a currency that only can be used in that specific town. Granted, we don't see that side of it, but it's the same thing. Like you have this company that owns these planets or these like colonies on these planets, and they can enforce whatever laws they have stated.
Yeah, it's like if you want to go to like another real world expertise, it's like the United Kingdom when they were the British Empire and the East End Trading Company. It was a branch off from the British Empire, but they very much operated independently on their own. But episode 1, it kind of gives you. It's a Star Wars 2 episode because you see everything. You're seeing the planet he's on. It's kind of like. It's interesting. It's a definitely interesting planet that we're on because it's definitely it's not a supporter for the Empire, but it's not a supporter for like Rebel Alliance, But it was, I think overall episode 1, the main takeaways I get from episode 1 was the intro, the Primo unit facility guards, and kind of getting their side of it, and then Andor's perspective on it, and him like knowing what he's done and now what is going to happen afterwards.
Yeah. But we can clearly see like that the people on the planets don't care for the company, but it's just it's their way of life. They have to work for the company. They're stuck there.
Yeah. Like they can, yeah. I mean, if you really want to talk more about episode 1, I'm down to talk about more episode 1 because when it comes to Andor, him like waking up and like the actions of like, oh, what have I done? Like we definitely talk about that. But to be honest with you, I think both me and the bigger episodes to talk about is mainly 3 and 2.
Yeah. So let's just segue into kind of
that. 2, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, 2 was the beginning backstory to Andor's past, Kanari, and where he's been from, and where he started off of. And I think the funny takeaway is that I've seen from anyone, I can agree with this, It's like in the Lord of the Flies situation for some reason. It's kids. It's mostly kids.
Yeah, because like as we see, that planet had like some major faction or major company had a mining operation there, and it'd probably be safe to assume that they brought all working age people to that mine.
Yeah.
So that would explain like the lack of adults. And when we finally see the mine, it's run down, it's decrepit, it's not operating anymore. So it'd also be safe to say that something probably happened there.
Yeah. Something happened there definitely. But then to see the ship crash, I knew we were gonna I didn't know what ship it was gonna be. Interesting to find out we are dealing with the Separatist Alliance.
At least that's like what if you look at like the uniforms and look on the insignia on the ship, it is for the Separatist Alliance. But then dialogue states that it was a Republic officer that was killed. So it's kind of
So it like was I'm a little confused of what she was discussing. Like, did they kill a Republic officer, or did they find a Republic officer and assume that he had killed one? It's all interesting takes of like what is going on.
yeah.
You know, you don't know why like they're saying Republic officer, but I'm for sure saying that there was a Republic frigate going to come by. Come on,
Yeah.
there was definitely a Republic frigate coming from somewhere.
And one of the things that I loved about that flashback is that we see that like before we didn't really know too much about Cassian and where he was from. But then we find out through these episodes that he comes from a tribe of people that are very similar to some of the tribes that we have here on Earth. They exist in the 21st century, but governments have made it illegal from interacting with them, allowing them to develop on their own. And they're still very primitive people. And we see that with Cassian's tribe. They're still very, very primitive people. They're not like wearing loincloths primitive. They have adapted like some modern technologies like regular clothes, blow darts, stuff like that. But they're not, they don't speak Galactic Basic. They don't have like a developed superstructure. They're just a small tribe of mainly kids.
Yeah, they really are. It's very interesting to see all of it. I agree with you. It's definitely like a real world thing, when it comes to like how what they're doing, why they're doing this. It's all very interesting to see that tribe and how they speak as well.
Mm-hmm.
What I think episode 2 was more, you could say, a filler episode between 1 and 3 if you wanted to. It was definitely just more of a dive down into who are these people, what's this world, here's his backstory, more of the Primo unit and how they're reacting to it. Like, oh, one of our own's been killed, let's take care of this guy. Let's
Mm-hmm.
carry him down. I kind of like that morale. I like that strength between them. Very interesting. It's very juicy. Because episode 2 had its moments of like this Primo unit, like what they're doing and how they're upset. Each one of them is upset about what has happened to 2 of their officers. Now, much as the director tried to get it sweep under the rug, you always have this very, I would say you can definitely tell his character is committed to the cause type character. When 2 of his own,
He drank the Kool-Aid.
he drank the Kool-Aid. He is committed to the end of his life, and then he wants this guy caught.
Yeah.
The director has been in it for a while, so he definitely can see the fire in him. But he's like, dude, we really can't catch this guy. We don't want to be made fools out of. The Empire would just get more involved with us because, to be honest with you, the Empire may be puppet mastering them and like having them like by the strings. They definitely do operate on their own. They definitely do operate at their own will. And you don't want the Empire to become more involved. You don't want the Empire to get more involved because, one, it sucks for the world because the Empire, if they get involved, if they're going to be all involved in it, not good for the world because the Empire can be douches, but I love them and they'll secure the planet. 2, you're probably gonna have a lot more battles, and the Empire is gonna basically wipe you out from existence.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to talk about. This is a little fun thing that I saw during episode 2 was the blue, like it looked like ramen or like lo mein. I
Yeah.
saw that. I'm like, I want some of that now.
Yep. That was interesting.
And it was literally like same thing. Like so small paper to go container, and dude's like, oh.
Yeah, literally. Episode 3 though. I think episode 3 is the juice, the meat of the episode.
One thing that I want to talk about is easiest way to compare the assistant director, or whatever his official title is, to is he is like a new lieutenant in the military. Like there are different types of new lieutenants. You have the lieutenants that were prior enlisted, so they already know how to compose themselves, how to interact with other like service members. But they're not as like prim proper and gung ho. Like they understand the reality of service. But then you have the guys that are straight out of college. They've been told by these instructors how they need to act, how they need to walk, talk, and all of this other stuff. And they haven't actually interacted with other service members before. So they're very gung ho and motivated. They don't understand how the military actually works. And we see that with this guy. He's very gung ho and he's very like, let's go. He doesn't understand. There's like, doesn't matter like how gung ho you are. There, things will happen and things won't happen. It's just the reality of your job.
Yeah, and he doesn't understand that clearly. He's definitely.
Damn it, Shane.
Sorry. So he definitely is new to it, and it's definitely very interesting to see how he comes across like the situation. Like
Mm-hmm.
good speech, give him that. Good like boost of morale. But you definitely can tell he's never been put in the position of hunting a person down in a fight, in a firefight, and a couple other things. Because when we talk about episode 3, that ending really shows like you now know what you're in for.
Yeah, it was a baptism by fire. And there's one thing that the sergeant, I guess we'll call him, like said to the guy. He's like, "We always love having an officer with us on the line." Like speaking real world military, like you might want like a more seasoned officer. Like personally, like if I had to deal with an officer in my job when I was in the military, I would have wanted a seasoned one, like maybe like a first lieutenant, a captain that had like been around the block. They had experience and stuff, so they had a lot of knowledge to pass on. But the guys straight out of college, they always would try and tell you how to do something. So we would want them as far away from us as possible because they would inevitably slow us down from doing our job.
Yeah.
So it was like it was maybe in that kind of like security force that they have, like the officers expected to like be very knowledgeable and experienced when it's still the same thing. He's very new and he doesn't understand things, so he's like kind of deer in headlights, just like
Yeah, you definitely can tell he doesn't understand how to do a lot of things. You can definitely tell he's book trained, not field trained.
no.
Books and field training can be very, 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 very different. So to see him be like this, and you just definitely tell has a lot of growing up, and he's gonna have to start getting used to it. He now knows what he's in for. And no offense to the Primo unit, they're also not really well trained. They're all in a very situation gun ho type thing. They all have an itchy trigger finger. They're not the best trained, but it's all maybe I'm gonna just be right back for a second, but maybe you can explain how, because you're ex-military, so maybe you can explain like the itch trigger finger thing, like episode, like definitely go into episode 3 of like what exactly what I'm talking about, right? With the guy, you know, like maybe you can explain it better as a military. I'm just gonna go turn off my camera and mute, and I'll be right back.
But one thing like that is very easy to see is like they were very gung ho. They had itchy trigger fingers. They just wanted to get after it, which is very common for new like in the military. It's very common for new military members. Like they're scared, but at the same time they're excited. They finally get to do this thing. Like they get to go. They get to go be a warfighter. They get to go kick in doors, kick ass, take names, kind of thing. But at the same time, that's the worst spot to be because 9 times out of 10, all this training that they have accumulated to this point just goes out the window and they're acting on impulse. So they're not working as a team, they're not communicating with one another, and they're most definitely not following orders. Like they just want to go. And we see it very, very clearly. They were told in the episode to wait for the main body to regroup with them, and then they could push on to capture Cassian and his compatriot. I've drawn a blank on his name, but that unit that was there was just to go get him. They rushed in. They ended up getting their asses kicked, and even when like the main body arrives, they get their asses kicked because they're not used to fighting that kind of fights. It seemed like maybe they might have been used to like maybe just a straight up like shootout, but that kind of like where they don't know what's going on, and the fact that the people of the town are working against them because they have their own way of like feeling. They also have their own communication system. Like no one spoke a word to anybody, but they just they had like noises they had trained the rest of society on. Like, hey, you hear this is what you need to do. And like Cassian's friend, I call them friends. I don't know, like their relationship's kind of weird. But he goes and he sabotages one of their shuttles, and it's like it's giving glimpse of like this is not a fight that this security force is ready for. They haven't prepared for this because they've never seen it before.
Where are we at?
So I had just talked about how Cassian's friend sabotaged the shuttle.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, man. Sorry, my I have Steam doing something very stupid. Okay. So yes, we obviously that one dude. I kind of knew he was going to be the jealous type. You could just see it in the
Tim.
We're going Tim. We're calling him Tim or Ted.
No, that's his name. Is Tim.
His name is Tim.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Tim in the Star Wars universe.
But they made it special. It's Tim with 2 M's.
It's Tim with 2 N's.
Yep. That's his name. It's Tim with 2 M's.
Yeah. So okay, that's interesting. So okay, let's talk about Tim here for a second.
Yeah. Good boyfriend or bad boyfriend? I say both. He's a mixture of both.
Yes.
Because like
friend, he's like, here's my thing. He's the nice guy type of boyfriend. He definitely is the type of guy to be like, hey, you want to, like, I can go out and get this for you. Love you, babe. See you later. And then come back and he did nothing. You know, he's committed to this woman. You know, he's definitely that type of boyfriend. You know, he'll do things, he'll do this and that. Like, he's definitely kind of the committed guy. But the thing is, he's the jealous boyfriend.
Yeah, it would like his compulsion to alert security services, like, hey, the guy you're looking for is right here. Like, it was a good idea, but it was poorly executed.
Yeah, like if you really wanted to, I don't know. It was definitely a stupid idea on his part. He shouldn't have done what he did at all. You know.
But he was looking out for her well-being, because even like after the security forces show up, and he would probably sit back and like let things play out. When his girl like ran off, he chased after her trying to make sure she was okay, and it negatively cost him his life because he tried to challenge the security forces because they were assaulting her, and inevitably they reacted.
That's a problem I have with them, because maybe you can correct me on this, Charlie. They didn't have probable cause to detain her or put her down the way they did. She wasn't. She may have been resisting, but to do blunt force trauma like that to the head and make her bleed, to like stop her and all that, there was really no essential reason. Like, honestly, you could have, like, yeah, she was running at you guys. You definitely could have stopped her, patted her down, and let her go about her business. You shouldn't have detained her, cuffed her, did such an abuse of force onto said person. Because all you know is that she is running to get back to her family. Like, yes, as viewers, we know she's trying to run to get to Andor and help him out, but to them, there could have been plethora of reasons, and all you could have done is stopped her, detained her real quick, pat down, let go, call it a day.
See, it's all like that's one of the things. It's like, if it was like the military, then like for like real world military, we have like procedures for that kind of thing. But then they act more like a law enforcement kind of thing. They went to go serve a warrant to arrest Cassian Andor for the murder of 2 of their officers. As a law enforcement division, they should have had different procedures. But then you also have to look at the fact it's the corrupt Empire era. Everyone does what they want when they want, how they want to do it. So on the military side of things, how we handle people coming at us is we have escalation of force. So like, let's say you're coming up to me when I'm trying to like do my job, like I'm pulling security on a building or on like a street corner or whatever, and you're coming up like harassing me. I would verbally tell you, hey, back off. And if that doesn't work, I would push you away. Again, that still doesn't work. I then show you that I have a weapon and I'm not afraid to use it. And if that still doesn't work, then because I have gone through that escalation of force, I now have the right to defend myself because you're still not backing off when I've made it very clear, back off. I can then shoot you. They don't want you to shoot to kill because there's a reason they're trying to get onto you. So if you can like injure that person, detain them, and then interrogate them later, cool. You can possibly get some information out of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But for law enforcement, since they're more of a law enforcement division, they should have tried to calm her down and figure out where she was trying to go. Because again, from their point of view, they don't know what she's doing, so they should try to figure out what she was doing and let her react. They should have reacted accordingly. But also, in the heat of the moment, this is the big thing. The heat of the moment, doesn't matter if you're law enforcement or military. They were getting shot at. Well, stuff was going on. Like, they were in the heat of the moment. It wasn't just, hey, we're just sweeping through a town looking for a guy. By that point, things had gone sideways. Shots had been fired. Things were blowing up. Like, it was now hostile. The entire environment was hostile. They have somebody running at them, but they don't see a weapon. They could have reacted a lot worse than just cuffed her and beat her. Like, they could have just dropped her on the spot. Because one of the big things is, unless you train your body really, really well, when you're in that heat of the moment, you lose fine motor function. Like, a lot of people refer to that as like, oh, you're not going to be able to do like when you manipulate your fingers, that's a fine motor function. So everyone's like, hey, if you're in the heat of the moment, do gross motor functions, which is like wide sweeping motion, stuff like that. Stuff that encompasses your entire body or entire limb or something like that. But also your brain's not like it's firing extra fast. Like your synapses are firing extra fast. So like you might see something in the corner of your eye, you react, and you don't have a chance to think because your brain is immediately like, oh shit, I'm about to die. Thank you, Kurt. See you. I love you. But it's one of those things like you just see it out of the corner of your eye, you react, oh shit, bam, you shoot it, and then after the fact you're like, fuck, that was a kid or that was an unarmed woman or whatever. But I do applaud them a little bit in the fact that they had enough like cognitive function to just restrain her where they've been excessive with beating her. Yes, they could have handled that differently. But then you see that cognitive thought go away 2 seconds later when Tim comes running down the stairs and they just shoot him square in the chest.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the other two were not, like the other three guys were not going to shoot him. They're most likely going to probably take him down because that's what you usually would do in that situation, unless the person is armed and would be considered dangerous. Like if they're running at you with a knife, a gun, you would definitely possibly shoot to kill or shoot to disable and bring down. But like they should have, like the other three looked like they were like one guy, like you can tell one guy had his gun like back and was ready to like grab, you know?
Yeah. And like that all comes down to like how much time have they actually spent like serving or like just in combat, because the more experience you get doing these jobs like in the military, you react differently because you have you've experienced things. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to take away from Andor, and there's definitely a lot to talk about that. Now I'm gonna branch off from those couple scenes because we've been on them for a little bit, and we got a couple more 30 minutes to go. I really want to talk about episode 3, especially a couple things that happened. I'm gonna pull up just so I can have the names in front of me now when it comes, because I'm on my monitor now. Like Andor cast and characters. For example, Marva Andor. That's Mama Bear to Andor. You know, she took care of him. She's taking care of her life. I love her quote of, "That's what a reckoning sounds like." You know, like when you see the trailer, you think she's talking about like them proposing the Rebel Alliance to her for her to join. You know, like something about rebels. But to see that it's the noise going outside, everybody's kind of going off. You know, like the warnings and all of that. And then when it ceases, I was really hoping shit was about to go down with the town and they were about to all come out, but to just hear her, it just all cease and the utter silence. Because once the silence is gone, it's more frightening than when the silence wasn't there.
Mm-hmm. And see, like we have a real world comparison to that. Like again, this is military stuff. The easiest one to compare it to is the raid on Mogadishu, Somalia, back in the 90s. I think it was 93. It eventually became known as Black Hawk Down. But for reference, there was a warlord in Somalia, Mogadishu, and he was ruling with an iron fist, not allowing UN humanitarian aid to come to the people. So UN peacekeeping force was sent in to try and alleviate that. And the U.S. had forces in there, and they were trying to capture one of his lieutenants, trying to bring down the warlord. Because if they could capture his lieutenant, they could figure out where he was. And so they go in, they board their choppers and all that, and they're flying into Mogadishu. And when they get like probably a few miles outside the city, there's a kid that like throws a phone to his parents and all that, and the parents call, and it alerts the entirety of the city, hey, the Americans are on the move. So when the Americans arrive, there are tires burning in the streets, there's noise, it's creating chaos before chaos actually ensues, or before the shooting actually starts.
Yes.
It's a psychological thing, because if you build up like this atmosphere of chaos and then all of a sudden it goes quiet,
yes,
it really messes with the psyche and it will put you on edge.
So yes, it really is. And then just to see the quiet, the tense, it was it was really tense because you can actually, and that's what I liked about episode 3 is you could feel the tension on your side because if you're in the primo officer's shoes, the noise has just stopped. Everyone's gone. You have no idea what's about to happen, and it's like it can either go shit's about to hit the fan, or everything else is about to like just go crazy.
Yeah, and like that, this plays into like one thing is like those guys that survived that, they're not going to be the same later on. Like this is speaking to like the mental state of human beings. Is like, well, yes, I never did see like direct combat. I did so much training where like noise was a big thing. If it gets quiet, just out of nowhere, if it's too quiet, it bugs me.
Yeah.
Like the hairs on, like it could be like I could be sitting in my living room and I pause my show or movie or whatever I'm doing, and I just hear the quiet, the hairs on the back of my neck start to stand up because for the longest time that quiet was always a forewarning something bad is about to happen.
Yeah, and definitely by the end, 6 men are dead. If you want to take out the first like 2 for episode 1, 8 men are dead.
Mm-hmm. Out of 12.
And that's a lot more big. And they have effectively caused a rebel insurgent to now happen on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to be upset. People are going to be rioting because one of their own are dead. And it's going to become chaos. And this is the reason why the Empire is going to get involved on this planet.
Yeah.
And it's going to be bad because once the Empire shows up, I'm going to be fucked up because I'll be simping for someone. But once the Empire shows up, it's kind of a done deal because these people do not have the force. They have like guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare can be their type of thing, but they do not have the force like the Empire, and they do not have the weaponry of the Empire that the Empire will bring once this shit hits the fan. Because once that riot's gonna happen, the Empire is gonna bring troopers down. It's gonna start bringing units down. The Death Troopers are gonna arrive, and that's even more shit hits the fan now.
And see, like this is going back to like things are going to get dark because that guerrilla warfare that we're going to see or hopefully see it's really reminiscent of the past 20 years of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, the war on terror, and then even earlier on in the 70s when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, the Mujahideen fighting the Soviets. They didn't have technological superiority. They were very, like technologically, they were very set back. They were still riding horses for combat. They were using weapons from the Second World War against these technological superpowers.
Yeah,
and they still managed to hurt both the U.S. and the Soviet Union bad enough to where at home people didn't want that fight anymore. Like you probably saw it. You're 18 now. You probably saw it within your lifetime. People like, hey, we don't need to be in Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to get out of there. It's not our fights.
Yeah.
That's because imagine coming home from work, you turn on the news, and the first thing you see is 15 Americans killed in a remote bomb detonation in Baghdad, Iraq. It messes with the psyche because those troopers, like when the Empire comes in, they're not gonna have like they have the advantage of technology, but the other people have the advantage of it's their home. They know it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So they know how to fight on it. They know how to hurt those invaders worse than anybody else.
Yeah, and this is a wake-up call. Andor is going to be a dark show. And if you're not going to be for it, people who are going to watch this are live right now with us right now, or are going to watch this later, if you're not for this, warning you now, the show's going to get dark, and this show's going to go down past that. We're going to see, and even I'm going to see, because, like, they're going to be like, holy fuck, you've always wanted to see it, but did you really want to see it? You know, you've always talked about seeing, like, for example, you've always talked about seeing, people have always talked about, we want more brutal Vader. I want it out of comics, throw it onto the live screen. We got it in Kenobi when everybody dropped dead in that scene. Like everybody was like, it's going to get dark. I wouldn't be like they've already mentioned there have been public executions before. It's gonna probably happen in Andor. This show is meant to be dark. Episode 3 has proved it, especially seeing it. Especially just seeing it. It's proved it, And I think me and you, Charlie, have been asking for this the quote unquote Imperial perspective, which is the Primo guards that we can call the Imperial perspective, to see that and to be in their shoes and just kind of feel their loss. It's 6 of their own dead in total today, and then this officer is kind of behind it because he didn't listen to his supervisor that told him.
The biggest thing, this is one thing I'm glad I never had to do, is he's going to have to sit down and write a letter to those guys' families saying, hey, these guys died in the line of duty. And he will have to weigh the option of telling them they died like heroes or they died because I was stupid. And that's the hard thing, is coming to the realization that those were living beings. Those were people that, because of a bad judgment call you made, they're now dead.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I never had to do that. And I, knock on wood, I never do.
Yeah, it's bad because you're gonna sit down, you're gonna talk to them and be like, yeah, you're just going to supervisor that's sick or dead under his technical command, because clearly he has a lot of authority in the place, so it's under his command, I would say. I'm looking at the cast right now. They haven't given his rank, but we could say, because the supervisor that we've been talking about is Chief Hine. He could be assistant to the chief. He can be right below him, 12 ranks down. He's definitely high up there, and I think it's because of schooling, most likely.
Yeah.
Oh, mind me, I'm just getting a charger. I'm still here, but to discuss it about that, this show is. Can you hear me all right, Charlie? By the way.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to get progressively worse from now. Maybe not so much, but we may get to see Andor do badass stuff with Luthen, which it looks like we're going to see anyway. We're going to see them kick ass against the Empire. We're all going to go woohoo. But when we cut back to this planet and the Primo Security Force dealing with it, and the Empire coming down, it's going to get dark.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Empire is going to handle it, because if I remember seeing from the trailer shots, there's definitely going to be a riot going to happen soon, which that's going to be interesting to see. But grenades are going to get thrown, and that's when blasters get drawn. It's like this, it's like in the 1700s again, when Orion, it's this kind of the spark of the rebellion for the Americans. It was a riot happened because the British Imperial Force in Boston, and one shot led to 8 civilians dead.
That's the thing I love about Star Wars, is how they mirror history so well. They take things that have actually happened and they implement it into Star Wars to make it more relatable. Shane, if you haven't, go look up Black Hawk Down. There's a few movies out about it.
I've seen that movie.
But also just look up the history behind what happened during that raid. How bad it was, and then go rewatch episode 3. Yeah. You'll see what the parallels I'm talking about between that.
I got you. But this is going to be a mess. It is going to be bad. We're going to see how the show progresses, definitely. But episode 3 with 5-bar was the best because of that feeling of tension, that feeling of anxiety. You're worried, as much as some of these characters are going to get out, you don't know about the rest. So you're kind of worried. You feel the tension for the Primo security unit because shit is going down, Obviously, the sergeant, Sergeant Linus, has been dealing this way more, because he's I'll give him this. He had great commanding authority. We want this guy here, we want this unit here, because we're going to pinch him, And obviously he's not here. We're going to move teams up here. We're going to move teams up here. Obviously, just acted really fast because Luthen, boom, explosions, Yeah. You can tell Luthen's been in the game for really long because he armed the door of explosives.
Yeah, with slap charges.
Yeah, he's been in the game for long,
Yeah, and see, that's we have a saying in the military: no plane survives first contact. I could sit here and write up the most thought out plan, like most tactical plan to same scenario, go arrest Cassian Andor. But the moment something happens, that entire plan goes out the window. You're thinking on the fly, and you gotta make on the fly decisions, and those can either make or break your entire operation.
Yeah, mind you, what's really dark about this is Luthen literally straight up telling Andor to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my fuck. You know, I'm happy there's been no cameos. They better stick to this, which I think they are. No Jedi. No Jedi. You know? Don't not care, but please, no Jedi. I don't want to see a single Jedi. I don't want to see even Kenobi. You know what I mean? But you can show me K2SO. If you have any cameo that I want to see or even appear for an episode or two, Director Krennic.
See, my thing is like, if we see a Jedi, I'd be okay with it, but it has to be a very specific way. Because it's like 15 BBY. It's still, like, the purge is still happening. They're being hunted. So the capacity I'd like to see a Jedi is dead.
5 BBY.
Oh, it's 5 BBY? I thought you said 15 BBY.
Why should you get 15 for me? I said 5 BBY.
Because I asked you earlier, like, I said, I don't know how far from Rogue One it is. And
like, for the first episode, it said 5 BBY.
But when I was talking with you about it earlier, you said it was 5 years from Rogue One.
Yeah,
that's what you said. 5 years from Rogue One would be 15 BBY.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, because... Well, no. I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
My brain's not firing all synopsises right now. I apologize.
That's 15 years before the Battle of Ant, like the Battle of...
I had my things mixed up. I apologize.
You know, I didn't know what BBY meant for the longest time in the Star Wars community until someone straight up, like, I just asked, like, what does BBY mean? They're like, before the Battle of Yavin. But, yeah, so this is overall first takeaways that everybody should definitely take away. And I hope you all did. Dark, gritty Star Wars is officially here, and there's most likely going to be more of it because this is definitely, and like I said before, this is a test run. This is a test run to see how well a dark, gritty show in Star Wars universe can do because there's a lot of dark, gritty eras that you can do. You could do the Mandalorian eras. Like, the Mandalorians are dark and gritty, you know? Yeah. Mandalorian, like the Mandalorian show with our buddy Pedro Pascal can still be dad and something, but it can be dark and gritty. It's like kind of a test run, you know? Or if they really are trying to play it, they're probably trying to see if test runs for Acolyte to be dark and gritty, you know? And probably test run to see if we can do like the Old Republic dark and gritty, because Old Republic is not really like the prequel trilogy when it comes to the Clone Wars and the Jedi. There's like, it's not Sith versus Jedi in the prequel trilogy. It is Sith versus Jedi in the Old Republic trilogy, and it is a massacre and bloody battles on each side.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a test run. I'm definitely excited. The review, overall, my review for Andor, if I'm going to do first episodes out of 3 out of 10, I would say it's definitely an 8. It's just obviously the slow part. I think me and Charlie both talked about this. It's slow. You know, we had to do our homework, so we kind of had to watch it. Not really. I was really excited to watch it, you know. But it's slow. But if you can get through those first 3, go for it. But if you can't, you don't like it, I've said this in the beginning of the episode, I'll say it again, don't ruin it for everybody else. Star Wars there are certain things that's not for everybody. Star Wars, you know? Like, people don't like my hot take, but I do like The Last Jedi. It's definitely one of the better episodes of the sequel trilogy, but a lot of people agree. People can like Rise of Skywalker, you know? People can accept that ending. Star Wars is like, we all have to agree. We're not going to agree on everything, but if we can at least agree to disagree and still be civilized, as Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, at least we can go, like, we're not uncivilized people, then we can all enjoy Star Wars for what it is and enjoy our favorite parts of it. If it's the prequels, if it's the sequels, if it's the shows, if it's the solo stories, if it's the originals, you know, just enjoy it, you know.
It's made for everybody. Like, if you look at Star Wars as a whole, there is something for everybody in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
And we see that already. Like, oh, you want Goofy? Phantom Menace. Go watch Jar Jar. Got you Goofy right there.
You want Goofy? Watch Clone Wars episodes. Literally, some of the Clone Wars episodes are literally just jokes.
Oh yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is a walking, not like no offense to him, he is the most badass character in the Clone Wars, but he's literally a walking sarcasm joke.
he is the Sass Lord.
Literally. So if you want to like go watch funny, if you feel like Star Wars is supposed to be more funny, watch the funny things about Star Wars. You know. But you can't tell me don't come back at me saying, "Well, I liked Rogue One but I don't like Andor because it's dark and gritty and serious." Well, Rogue One was dark, gritty, and serious. So you,
Mm-hmm.
what are you trying to tell me? You know. I think you both. You see that? See that one?
What?
Look at that.
Oh yeah.
That you heard. But it is all about enjoying Star Wars for what it is. And Andor, I'm going to enjoy. I know I am. I love the show.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Like I've wanted some. Like this is gonna be dark and gritty, but if they could go like a step above, like we obviously haven't seen too much of like combat, like how they're doing combat in this show. We've only seen the one scene, like the one fight, but just of that, if they could take it like a step above, like because too many times in Hollywood do we see like, hey, Joe Schmo ran past a grenade that was like a foot away from him, and he gets blown up and he just gets thrown really far, but he's intact. Like like how graphic the war can be. Like you're not like you get blown up, you're not going to be in one piece 9 times out of 10.
No.
You're going to be in a lot of pieces in a lot of places, and it's not a fun time. But we're slowly running out of time, so we're gonna start to wrap things up here. But Shane, what are your predictions for this week's episode? What do you think is going to happen in this week's episode?
Okay, so I think next week's episode is going to maybe, I could be wrong, definitely more of a recovery episode of like, here's what happened. I think we're going to get probably a couple more flashbacks in next episode. I could be wrong though. That's my prediction though. A couple more flashbacks. A recovery episode. I think the recovery episode, what I mean by recovery, we're going to go into our 3 main characters of the show. And I think that's Cassian Andor, which is the main character, of course. But then we have the other main character of Bix Callan now. We have, I should say, Luthen's definitely going to be a main character / side character. And we have our primo dude, Sorrel Karn, okay? We're definitely going to go over these 4 characters. Now, Cassian and Luthen are definitely a double duo, so we're going to definitely get them at the same time. But we're going to see Bix's events afterwards for, like, her recovery of Tim's death, what she's most likely going to do, which is going to build a rebel cell on this planet. And you're going to get the Karn, or Sorrel Karn dude. He's definitely going to be covering for what his mistake is.
Yeah.
He's going to be dealing with those actions. He's now going to understand what he is in the business of. You know? And Cassian and Luthen are most likely going to go over some of their backstory stuff. And they're probably just going to either go to a planet we may see, possibly Saw, but it's probably too early to see Saw right now. But definitely those 2 are going to be doing backstory, talking about their stuff, thing, or something else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I agree with your predictions. I think we're gonna get some of that, but at the same time we might get just thrown into some action because they left like under fire. Like it was not, well, they didn't take off and still being shot at, but like they are, like the security forces are aware they're leaving. Like there are people trying to escape the planet. So we might cut to they're in orbit and taking fire or something like that.
Yeah.
Like those immediate ramifications of what just happened is probably what I would think would happen.
Most likely, yeah.
And maybe we're gonna meet Mon Mothma. Maybe not. That might be a later episode.
It's a later episode.
I'm betting on a later episode, but if it happens this week, I'm not going to be surprised.
I won't be surprised. You know.
Yeah. But a little bit of news for you guys when it comes to us as a channel. I will be out of town next week and the week after, So it will be up to my lovely co-stars of Shane, Dom, and possibly Jordan to be running things. So expect a little bit more chaos.
You're stuck with me now.
Expect a little bit more chaos, but just in the hopes of being a little bit transparent and keeping you guys informed of what we're doing over here at the channel. Like I said, I will be out of town. So you get to deal with this douche nozzle.
Hey, whoa, that's not nice. We both know that's bad language.
You weren't even born when that was language.
He teach me there.
All right, but we've talked about just about all we can talk about when it comes to this stuff without doing like a take by take by take by take breakdown of each episode. If we did that, we'd be here for a while, a long while. So we're gonna wrap it up here. You can find me on TikTok at CarolinaBoy232. You can also find us as the channel here on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at Sandari Broadcast Systems. You can find us on TikTok at Sandari Broadcast Systems. We also have a Discord where you can hang out, talk with us, give us ideas to talk about on the show. And that Discord is linked in the description below.
Yeah.
Shane?
Oh, you want me to link my Discord? Jeez, what do you
Your social medias.
Oh,
where can people find you?
Oh, I was really confused for a second. I'm really sorry. If this glare would get out of my way, where you could find me at is you can find me at King Faye Official. You can just type those lovely digits down there, exact spelling King Faye Official on TikTok. Once you go from there, you can basically branch off to my Discord. Meet me there. You can meet Charlie there as well. And from there you can branch off into Sandari Broadcast. I am still working a couple things to give you guys a better link tree for our YouTube, for our Discord, for a couple other things for Instagram to give you guys all that. It's going to go on my channel for King Faye Official. That's going to go on our YouTube channel, and I hopefully put it on our Instagram channel just to give you guys links. But definitely, I can't wait to see you guys more. You guys are stuck with me next week, and so hopefully stuck with Dom or Jordan. So as Charlie did say, there's gonna be more chaos around, but we're definitely gonna have fun. You guys can, yeah.
All right, and that does it for us here tonight. Be safe. May the force be with you, and have a great week.